It's Friday the 13th. We're about to get spooky with this one. It's under further review. I'm Steve. I got the usual cast, Kevin, Mike here, and we got a good one per usual. We have an interview lined up for this episode. Bryce Fitzgerald, the starting safety from Miami.
One of our best.
Yeah, one of our best. And yeah, he's a good kid and gave a lot of great responses, had a really successful freshman season, 6 interceptions, a huge interception against Texas A&M in the playoff to clinch a victory so they could move on to the Ohio State game. But yeah, I have a lot of topics for you guys today. Hopefully we can crunch it into this hour or so episode that we're going to record. But before we get into the recording, I've noticed that our subscriptions are starting to tick up. So that's a good sign. Continue to support our show. We appreciate it every time somebody goes out of their way to click that subscription button. Watch our episodes. That's a big way for helping us grow on YouTube. The longer that you listen to our episodes or watch our episodes, the more people it's going to get out to. Is I know the YouTube likes to look at that, like the average watch time and stuff like that. So if you like what you're listening to, hopefully you stick around. But guys, I have a lot of topics that are floating around my head. I do eventually want to get into our early season top 12, but I don't feel like this is the episode to do it. So I'm going to do some combination of college football questions because we had the Bryce Fitzgerald interview and it's kind of the off season. We should be talking about the 2026 season, but I have a few draft questions as well. But I wanted to start with this. I want to talk. I know we've been talking a lot about the 2026 draft QBs. It's not the greatest class. It's Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, and then it just falls off and it's up for grabs after that. But I want to start kind of also talking about impact players for the fall of 2026. And I feel like we need to start with the quarterbacks. So my very first question for you guys is who can name more quarterbacks that are better than Arch Manning at the moment heading into the fall?
For this draft or just
in general? I'm talking impact player
in college football. That means we got 132 teams, I think it is now, that we could choose from quarterback wise.
Yes.
I'm not saying there's 132 quarterbacks better than Arch Manning. So please, Texas. I have enough problems with Miami fans. The Big 12. I don't need no more.
Mike, name the 132. No, just kidding. But I thought it would be fun because I think Arch Manning in some ways is very controversial. Not controversial in the actions other than when he stood over that FCS player last year when they were beating up on them. You remember he scored that touchdown and he was like tough guy standing over them. But yeah, I'm more talking this because I know like there's some people who absolutely love him. There's people who are making him out to be the Heisman front runner, the future #1 pick, all that good stuff. But then there's other people who are not so sure about Arch Manning. I feel like this room is very split in half, as split in half as 3 people can be, because you can't really split 3 people in half. But
split in thirds.
Thirds, yeah, I would say thirds. So we do proper math around here. But yeah, I mean, I think there's no wrong answer when it comes to Arch Manning, unless you have him at number 132 on the list. Then I might go to war with you. But
yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. Missouri State's quarterback is. Just kidding. I do have a question. So, are we basing this on draft ranking, like where we think is this person a better draft prospect, or just who we think is a better college quarterback against him? So that's the question we got to ask.
Let's talk best right now. I want to talk best overall quarterback.
Yeah, because I think draft changes the conversation, obviously.
At the start of the season, that like who your top
yeah.
Who you think?
All right. So let's remove the draft from it. Don't worry because obviously prospects values change.
Yes, because you can talk ceilings all day when it comes to draft.
Yeah.
Right now, I want to talk about a player who some are labeling a potential Heisman Trophy winner next season. So I want to get your thoughts.
I feel like we heard that label once before.
Going into this season, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I just couldn't remember.
I mean,
there's your split in thirds.
I know that everyone is going to yell at me for this, and I'm fine with it, but I do think at the moment, still Dante Moore is slightly better than Arch. I mean, it might change during the season, but I do think at the moment, I think he's better. And depending on how Sayin comes out too, I think he is still technically a little better as well. But other than that, maybe Mensah, because I mean he literally took Duke and made him relevant. So, but I really can't think of more.
I'm gonna right now. I'm gonna agree more over Arch. I think I like the Mensah one. I think that's a good one because I do think that Mensah with more talent I mean, look what he did with no talent. I hate to say it like that, but I know they won the ACC, but they were a 6-5 team or whatever it was. And so with more talent is going to be, I think, a game changer. So I'm gonna say Mensah. I don't know what it is, but I really I know I don't like the Big 12, but for some reason I really like Sorsby. I could see him coming out and being a better quarterback statistically than Arch Manning. I don't know if the team will, well, you know what? Actually, Texas Tech probably could finish higher than Texas next year. I mean, they invested a lot of money.
He's playing in
Pains me to say that. Yeah, I mean, it pains me to say that. I think Sam Leavitt could do, assuming what version of him we get. And I think a lot of people expect him to, I'm going to leave Sam Leavitt off for now because I'm going to leave that off. Yeah, the only ones Dante Moore, Mensah with Miami is going to be a big one. And like I said, Sorsby with Texas Tech should be, in theory, better than they were this year. So
you don't like
those would, what?
Sayin?
I do like Sayin. I just don't know that. That's a tough one. Yeah, I guess based off of this year, I'd put Sayin above there too. So what is that, 4 I got there now? Let me keep thinking here for a minute. I can't do Hoover. Steve, help me out here.
I mean, I'm not saying that I would put this guy in front, but Drew Mestemaker maybe.
Mestemaker's a good one. Is a very good one. Mestemaker's a good one. I know the competition was obviously North Texas last year to Texas are two different types of competition, but Mestemaker stats you can't deny. And I don't know what the schedule looks like for
Chambliss.
Chambliss, you got it. He's going. It looks like he's going back. Yeah, Chambliss. I put it so there. All right. So let's remove Messmaker for now because the competition didn't stack up. So let's remove that. Chambliss, or in my opinion, Chambliss, I would put in. Yeah, it's a tough one. This is really hard.
Yeah,
because
I think. I'll go on, Mike. Sorry.
No. I'm just thinking out loud. So please, just keep adding in there.
I think I grouped 4 quarterbacks together, and I keep swapping them in and out of who's number one, who's not. It really depends on the day. In those 4 quarterbacks, it's Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, and Chambliss is in there. But right now, I'm starting to think for me personally this fall coming up, it's the battle of Dante Moore versus Arch Manning. I did like Julian Sayin this season. I was high on him throughout most of the season. He had that 77% completion rating, which was amazing to see, and it's almost impossible to do at any level in football. But I also recognize that he threw the two same targets, and a lot of those 50-50 balls became 80-20 balls when you throw to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith all season. I would like to see him do it now. I mean, he still has Jeremiah Smith coming back. That was one of the biggest flaws for Arch Manning last season was he wasn't in the beginning of the season. He wasn't spreading the love. He was just going to Trey Wingo the whole season, the whole beginning of the season, I should say. So that you're going to see at Ohio State that national championship from 2 years ago where Notre Dame really locked down Jeremiah Smith. But the downfall for Notre Dame in that game was there was several other big targets. There was Carnell Tate. There was Egbuka on that team. They had 2 running backs that became, instant impact guys in the NFL, and Henderson and Judkins. So if you shut down the freshman on the team, there was going to be other guys that you had to stop. Now it's, they still have a very good running back in Bo Jackson, but it's more, if you shut down Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be the next guy up this season. So that's the next step for Julian Sayin is, can you spread it? Because that's the sign. Would you guys agree that's the sign of a very good quarterback, someone who can get multiple people targets? Whenever you look
Absolutely.
at a back in the day, you remember the Peyton Manning box scores? It would be 10 receivers deep in a game, and you'd be like, oh wow, they all performed on that team. So I think that's big. The dancing feet kind of threw me off in the playoffs. There was a lot of nerves with him. I'm gonna put it out there. I think I'm most excited about Arch Manning going into the season. His athletic frame, um, his ability to rush the ball. I think he's a better rusher than Dante Moore. I'll throw that up.
But I don't think it's close. It's not even
Yeah.
close. I in that regard. I think the big thing with Arch Manning is I think we all. Well, actually, I'm going to go a step further. I think a lot of people, because I think we were one of me and Steve. Obviously, Kevin wasn't with us at the time, but we kind of said that this is not something that's going to happen overnight for Arch Manning, like a lot of people felt. So I think this season is going to be the real test in the sense of you got a year starting under your belt now. You know, you're going to have more control. You know the offense a lot better. I know he's in the system for a couple of years, but now it's your offense. It's catered to you. I think this is the big test. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest Arch Manning fan. I think I've said that. I don't dislike the kid. I think it's good for football that if he's good. I would not be shocked even remotely if he came out and won the Heisman. I would not be shocked if we have another year like last year where we're like, what happened the first half of the season or what happened the second half of the season with him? But his physical frame, like you said, and his body of work and what he's capable of is so tantalizing. Like you got to root for a guy like that. You know, it's exciting. How do you get a guy who's built, what is he, 6'5" or 6'4"? Probably, you know, I'm going to assume going into next year, probably be 225, 230 pounds with, you know, he might have legit 4.5, 4.6 speed while also having, you know, I know the Mannings aren't known for having a strong arm, but he has a strong arm. You know, it's incredible what he's built for. Yeah, I got to be honest. The four guys you named, Sayin, like I said, I kind of wore off a little bit. I was on the I've said it last year that I thought that outside of Mendoza, he was the best quarterback out there. But the playoff did scare. It should scare a lot of people. I mean, but again, he didn't see pressure all year. Saw it in the playoff and he folded. I mean, who knows? But
And the
yeah,
the next tier of guys, there's too many question marks, right? Like Mestemaker, there's like, can he
yeah.
translate?
I mean, we don't know. We don't know what Messmaker is going to do. Granted, he didn't have a huge step up. He went to Oklahoma State. Let's not pretend like this is, you know, a huge leap. But he did it at North Texas. You know, not to downplay the stats because he had a great statistical season. But the schedule at North Texas versus what he's going to see at Oklahoma State is going to be a jump. Is it going to be the jump that Arch Manning sees? No, it's not. Like they're not even comparable, the two schedules. But Messmaker, I could see being a guy, if you remember, like a Case Keenum, where, you know, when it's all said and done his career, he's got 165 touchdown passes, you know. But you got to question the competition that he played against. And even at Oklahoma State, I'm still going to do that. So that's why I kind of can't put him ahead.
I think there's guys who can get there. Mensah can get there. Hoover, I think, can get
100%.
because of the system of Signetti. I think Byron
Sorsby.
Leavitt could get there. You know, Leavitt.
So that's what I want to talk about. I think that's the most. I think that one is, if we were going to pick a wild card, I want to talk about that one. Is that where do you stand on Sam Leavitt as a talent? Because we had his freshman year was one of the better freshman seasons I think we've seen. Obviously last year, you know, whatever happened. And you see these guys that come to LSU, you know, Jayden Daniels, Joe Burrow, and they have these explosive seasons. Do we think he potentially is that guy? Could he take that leap that those guys took? Could we be talking about a guy who flies at the draft board?
Yeah,
I think he could. Yeah, I think he totally could because, I mean, look what Kiffin did with Dart. Look what he did with Chambliss. Like, look what he – and you could argue that Leavitt is the better, like, just pure talented of the quarterbacks. Like, he had the better tools.
I think physical talent, this is the best one that he's come across.
Exactly.
I don't want to downplay Dart because Dart was a highly touted prospect, you know, more so I think than Leavitt was.
But just like,
but the body of work that Leavitt's already put in, you're right. I think this is the most talented quarterback that Kiffin's had to play with.
It's different. You took Dart, who was a backup, and he transferred over, and he made himself at Ole Miss. Leavitt's already been in the prime time. He played in the college football playoff for Arizona State. And I have to say, like, if you rewatch some of those games that season, it wasn't all Cam Scatteraboo. I know Scatteraboo was a workhorse, but Leavitt was still performing, and he was successful as a quarterback of the Arizona State Sun Devils that season. But I think this is just such a fascinating story because Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, he's like, all right, if I'm not going to go after the big time quarterbacks, I'm going to go find a Division II quarterback and make him a star. And he had two quarterbacks, Simmons too, who's the lefty, who just I think transferred as well. But they kind of battled out, and Simmons was the starter in the beginning of the season, gets injured, and then Chambliss writes his story. I think this season, now that he went to LSU, he's like, I have all the money. I'm just gonna take the rock star. And Leavitt, he is a rock star. Like, if you're gonna talk about a guy who has a lot of comparisons to Arch Manning, it's probably Leavitt, right? I mean, the rushing ability is there. He might not have as strong of a arm. It might not be as clean passing the ball. But again, we're talking about guys who can get there. And to me, Leavitt in LSU system can certainly get there. And what they bring in, like 3 or 4 90+ rated transfer portal receivers this offseason.
Plus the offensive line too. That I think that didn't they get the guy from Colorado?
They did, yes. What was his
Seaton or
name?
Seaton, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that
Really
he's
get up there.
Jordan Seaton was
Yeah.
left tackle. Yeah, he's one of those guys. I think Leavitt is one of he could have that kind of ascension that blows all of us away. And like a lot of other guys have had at LSU, such as Jayden Daniels and Joe Burrow. That it could be one of those pops. And I'd argue that it's more likely to happen because I think Kiffin's a better coach than, Brian Kelly was. I think Kiffin is a better coach than Ed Orgeron was. And I love Ed Orgeron. But, I think that we could be sitting here right now, and I know a lot of people will, oh, you don't know ball, but we could be sitting here next year where Sam Leavitt's legitimately the guy for the first overall pick next year, like over Arch Manning. And, it may not even be close.
We saw.
I think I think that, and I don't think this rise would be that far fetched. Like Mendoza's rise was from nowhere, so to speak. This one I think would be more calculated. But yeah, I'm not willing to put him ahead of Arch Manning right now. But if we're sitting here next year in this on this date and we're talking about Sam Leavitt as the best quarterback in the draft class, I don't think any of us are going to be shocked. But I also think there's other guys like you said. You got Hoover at Indiana. With Curt Cignetti, it's not impossible what he can accomplish. And I'm big on Sorsby. I don't love Texas Tech. I've made that clear, but that's a very friendly offense to pad some quarterback stat, and they should be the best team in the Big 12 next year. So odds are they will be a playoff team again.
There's three.
Those two guys are wild cards.
There's 3 names that aren't even on this list yet that could even make a big rise. I mean, 2 plus 1 that Kevin mentioned. I mean, Mensah, I just don't think he gets mentioned enough for what he did at Duke last season. The second one is Jayden Maiava from USC.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Some of those like big top 25 games like Oregon and, there was a few others. If he can clean those up because he didn't look so great in those games, he can really become a premier quarterback. My third is CJ Carr. Notre Dame seems so big on CJ Carr, and they have this awesome defense coming back. Like, if CJ Carr transcends into the quarterback that we believe he can turn into, you're taking away his 2 best running backs. They're really going to rely on the passing game next season. I think this is an opportunity for Carr to really make a jump into that upper tier of quarterbacks. So we'll see. But the
That's
thing with the thing with Arch Manning, I'll just throw out, I think at the end of the season, his confidence started to come in because what did they have? 3 or 4 top 25 wins. The bowl game against Michigan, he looked fantastic. He didn't make one wrong decision that game. The Texas A&M game, he looked great. I would say the only knock was I think they lost to Georgia late in the season, and it wasn't even that close. But he's got targets. He got one of the best receivers in the transfer portal in Cam Coleman. Ryan Wayne goes back. That was his favorite target this year. And then the 2-headed attack in the running back game, Hollywood Smothers and Relief Brown. So this is going to be a high-power offense from Texas. So add that to a guy who's taken strides at the end of last season. I think it's going to be big for Texas and Arch Manning. But I'm going to switch over. I got another good discussion topic for you guys.
One thing I just want to say about Maiava is he's going to depend. It's going to be dependent on how he spreads the ball out to not having Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane.
Who's going to catch the ball?
Yeah, that would be the big saying. That would be the big switch up is what's going to happen there.
Those are 2. I mean, those are first and second round talents.
That's a good question, actually. Do you think Lincoln Riley can win a championship at USC?
I don't think his team is there yet.
but eventually,
I'm going to be honest with you. He's been kind of disappointing as a recruit. Well, USC had a huge recruiting class this year, but I mean, he hasn't been able to get that like Oklahoma style, team going where we're like, wow, this is innovative and impressive. We're just not there. And I don't understand.
It's two different programs he took over, though. Like Bob Stoops had Oklahoma in a very good place when Lincoln Riley took over. So it was kind of momentum. So he took over Bob Stoops' team, and then he was able to recruit based off the success he had with Bob Stoops' team. When you go over to USC, like he obviously took that job because that's the higher paying position. And if you look at history, I guess USC is known as the better coaching position, but I don't know where it's at now, like compared to Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, he obviously said California, the California recruits, the money that this position is going to bring in. But yeah, he hasn't had the same recruiting success, but I do think he has the number one recruiting class coming in this year for freshmen. I think he did okay in the transfer portal. He's been bringing in some solid coaches, so we'll see what it turns into. I know a lot of people have them as a team to look out for, and that's kind of my next question. Can you guys give me three contenders, like you're confident can compete for a championship in 2026? And can you give me three sleeper teams, three teams to look out for? Maybe we're not talking about for the top 12, but we should be focusing on a little more.
So you're saying you want to do it together or you want to do it separately?
Yeah, let's start with contenders first. I think that's the easier of the two.
Yeah.
I mean, I can start.
Yeah, you start. I know where you're going. All right, so get it over with.
Oregon is a contender. They have
Oregon is a contender.
They have Dante Moore coming back. They have pretty much all their offensive weapons besides Sadiq coming back. And they have, Stewart was out the whole year, and he was regarded as like a first, second round talent before he got that injury, and I guess he had an extra year of eligibility. He's coming back. As long as their offensive line plays better than they did against that Indiana front, then I do feel like they're a very good team that can win the national championship.
I agree. I think contenders are gonna be really boring, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna go with Indiana again because I think that Cignetti did a really good job retooling. He hit the transfer portal, as we know, harder than anybody. But I really, really am a Josh Hoover believer. I think that he was a very high statistical quarterback at a lesser program, in my opinion, in TCU. Put up a lot of stats there. I think that we're going to see a different version of him, probably a more ball security, but he'll still have a high output, season with Indiana. And like I said, Cignetti's just a genius offensively. And then their defense is no joke. I know they took a lot of losses on defense. They sent a lot of, obviously when you're hitting the portal as hard as they do, you're going to lose guys to the draft and graduation. I believe in the offense specifically. And I think that next year, I think Cignetti's right back there to with Josh Hoover. And I actually am going to go a step further. I think we are talking about Josh Hoover as a first round quarterback. For some reason, I just really feel that confident about it.
Yeah, you stole my number one, actually, Indiana, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to give you a second team just to be original, but Indiana brings back 4 or 5 offensive linemen this year, and then they also brought in one of the best offensive linemen in the portal in Joe Brunner from Wisconsin. But many believe Josh Hoover could turn into one of the best quarterbacks, like Mike was kind of saying. I was reading like his scouting report. Has strong ball placement and can air out the deep ball. Apparently, they love his football IQ, which I think that's a big reason why they brought Mendoza in last season from California, because he just looks like he studies everything, every aspect of life, like film, ChatGPT, responses, whatever it may be. Mendoza was always on his
ChatGPT.
Yeah, he is. But Hoover, it seems like he's kind of a replica in some ways. But I think the only thing that is a knock is he doesn't have the same mobile ability that Mendoza had, but he has a fast release. He limits the turnovers usually, which is like decision making's there. So Hoover seems like an already polished quarterback that's about to go into the Cignetti's system, which is kind of scary for other teams. Nick Marsh, they brought in from Michigan State. He was one of the lone bright spots from Michigan State this season. And again, Cam Coleman was one of the best receivers in this portal. So was Nick Marsh. Charlie Becker's returning. We know Charlie Becker. I think he had one drop this entire season. Some of the catches he had in the championship game were unreal. They brought in Turbo Richard from Boston College. They're pretty high on. He's the running back. I think they have Lee Beebe coming back from injury this season. So if they can get the defense squared away, I think they also have a pretty favorable schedule. They're facing Ohio State, Michigan, and USC. Those are their toughest games. Other than that, every other game should be winnable on their schedule. But I think my other contenders comes from the Big Ten again. You got to step up, SEC. It's Ohio State. I mean, whenever you bring back Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Bo Jackson, you're in pretty good shape. And they just brought in the top tight end from the transfer portal to replace Max Clare.
And I think they returned most of their offensive line too, did they not?
I believe so. I would have to fact check that. But the only thing that worries me about Ohio State is the defense, just because it feels like their entire defense is in the NFL draft this year.
They're getting gutted.
Yeah.
They've been gutted. You lose 3 guys.
They brought in a lot of good guys on defense. Earl Little from Florida State, he's a safety. He had a 93 rating on 24/7. James Smith is going to play a big role on defensive line. They got a edge rusher from Alabama at a 96 grade, and then another edge rusher from Alabama that had a 93 grade. Terry Moore from Duke is coming over to play safety. Christian Allegro, for a linebacker from Wisconsin, is coming in, and he's not a Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese guy, but he's going to be a very solid fixture on this defense. So, and don't forget Chris Henry as the freshman receiver. He's probably going to be one of the best freshmen in the nation. And Hunter Welsing is that tight end from Northwestern that they brought in from Max Clare. But it looks like Ryan Day made a big emphasis on replacing that defense during this portal. And he also brought in some targets for the receiver and tight end position. So this is in no way a rebuild. It's a retool for Ohio State. And it seems like it's every year a retool because they're right back in the thick of things. They're going to be a top 3 team. They're going to be widely known as one of the most talented to return this season. So would you say that's our 3 right there? It's all
that would be the only 3 I'd go with.
I want to say our guys from Miami.
I was about to say one other team I would probably throw in is Miami right now. And
yes.
Only because I feel like even though they're losing a decent amount of talent in the draft, they got a better quarterback. And I feel like
that Mensah Tony connection is going to be special.
It's
really special.
So,
don't forget Mark Fletcher.
Yeah, they have a lot of good defensive players that are still coming back. So I do feel like it's. I mean, even though I'm not a huge Cristobal fan, but I mean,
they also have the best safety in the nation.
We're Miami fans now. Thank you, Fitzgerald. Their secondary's coming back, so that's going to be a talented group. The only thing is, they're not going to have the same pass rush that they had from this past season, but how can you replace Ruben Bain and Mesidor on that? A lot of guys have Mesidor in the first round even, so that's 2 defensive linemen that are first-round talents in the NFL drafts. That's going to be hard to replace. But isn't Toro, right? The linebacker from
I do believe so. It's Torre,
yeah.
Yeah, for his 48th season of eligibility.
I mean, I'll take him. He's a good college linebacker.
I mean,
he's an excellent. He's a high tackle guy. He's a good linebacker. It's the eligibility in the NCAA conversation for another time. This is out of hand.
I agree, but also, I mean, when you have freaking Jason Taylor coaching up your defensive ends, I feel like they're just going to retool and get.
That's a good point.
It's pretty good. So let's get into our 3 sleepers. Let's dive into that. I'm going to go first because I think that I'm probably going with the most unoriginal one. I'm going to go with LSU. I got to be honest. LSU is to me the first one off because I don't know how legitimate of a sleeper they are, to be completely fair. I'm not going out on a limb, not taking a chance. I'm going with easy, low-hanging fruit. I mean, LSU retooled. They have what I think is one of the best coaches in the NCAA, bar none. Excellent recruiter. He retooled that team really quick, and he went and got Sam Leavitt, who we just discussed might be one of the best quarterbacks in the NCAA next year, that none of us would be shocked by if we're talking about a future first overall pick over Arch Manning, over, the guys we've named, Sayin and Mensah, all these guys. I think the SEC, regardless of what people think, is taking a step back. I understand top to bottom, it's probably better than the Big Ten. I'll concede that. But their best teams are not better than the Big Ten. And I think that favors LSU in what would be considered a retool year. And I expect Kiffin to pick up where he left off with Ole Miss in a much more financially beneficial situation with already a better recruiting class than they've had. So LSU to me is a sleeper. I would not be shocked that we have them in the national championship game next year, to be completely honest, against what I would think is probably going to end up being my early pick would probably still be Indiana. But I wouldn't be shocked to see LSU find their way into a national championship game. So let's see you pick something else, Kev.
I don't know right now. I've been trying to think.
I'll go. I'm not going to do the cop out, Mike. LSU felt like it was the easy one. Because I was thinking like Big Ten teams like Penn State and Michigan. I'm going back and forth between two.
I had to have belief in what I was saying. I couldn't just,
Yeah. I have two teams, if you guys are okay with me bringing them up. I want to start
give
with
Kevin
SMU.
as much time as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to start with SMU because I'm trying to think of like the two lanes of the bunch, the JMUs. We're going to fall into a situation next season where we're going to have to get one of these type of teams in. And SMU, I know they play in the ACC, so they're not necessarily a two-lane type, a JMU type. But if they can roll behind Kevin Jennings, who's coming back this year, and we talked about top-tier quarterbacks. He's not a top-tier quarterback, but he's certainly an exciting quarterback, a playmaker that's coming back this season, one that a lot of people are going to look at and be like, hey, like maybe he becomes a middle rounds pick in the NFL draft. Maybe he's a back, a round 6 quarterback picked, but he's going to get some focus on him. He just has to limit the interceptions. He had 13 of them this year, but he threw 26 touchdowns, threw for 3,600 passing yards. I mean, I think the past several seasons, they have 3 or 4 losses in the ACC, so they've been kind of rolling in that conference. They do start out with Florida State this year, but after that, it's pretty favorable. They play Virginia Tech, but who knows how quick Franklin's going to get Virginia Tech back in the conversation of playoff contender or ACC contender. The only other big game is Notre Dame in South Bend, which is usually, that's just a hard environment to play in. And Notre Dame, they're going to have one of the best defenses in the nation and CJ Carr at quarterback. So that's going to be a really hard game. But if they somehow beat Notre Dame, then we're having a conversation of SMU getting into the playoff. My other one is Oklahoma State. And I mean, they're bringing in like 40 transfer portal additions, maybe more than that. But the biggest one is Drew Mestemaker at quarterback. If he comes in and does exactly what he did at North Texas at Oklahoma State, which I'm pretty confident he's going to be able to do in the Big 12, just because that's a high offense type of conference, then I think Oklahoma State's having a quicker turnaround than what Deion Sanders was able to do with Colorado. Because if you remember, Colorado was in a similar position as Oklahoma State when Deion Sanders took over, and he couldn't get to the playoffs. So maybe I'm kind of stunting myself here by picking Oklahoma State.
That second turnaround he did was even better, though, where he brought them back to where they were pre-Deion Sanders.
We didn't see that coming. But I also really like the running back from North Texas that went to Oklahoma State. He's a monster. And then who's the receiver? Wyatt Young, is it, or something? He's really solid and highly regarded. So let me see. Yeah, Wyatt Young.
They did a good job. Oklahoma. Yeah, they did a good job recruiting and transfer portal. I just, me, Big 12 teams. And I did speak highly of Texas Tech, though, today. Maybe people like me. But I can't do it for Oklahoma State.
It's the same thing as SMU, though. Like, you get past a certain team, you're in. So, like SMU, if they can get past, the Miamis of the world, and they can win that Notre Dame game. But even if they lose that Notre Dame game and run the ACC, then, they can sneak in. It's the same thing with Oklahoma State. If they get past Texas Tech, they beat BYU, then there's a good chance you're looking at Oklahoma State in the playoff.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that feel BYU might be the team out of the Big 12 next year, too. So, That could be a good one.
I did think of one. I'm going
Here
to
we
throw
go.
it out there.
All right.
It is a big sleeper, but you can argue because the coach was in the playoffs this year that UCLA is going to have a decent turnaround because they're bringing a lot of the same players from JMU. I mean, Nico Maiava is, before last year, he was having, you were talking about him in the first round, possibly this year. So I do feel like adding with Bob, Stoops, right?
No.
Chesney.
Bob
Chesney. To that team, I feel like they could have a decent turnaround and be one of the sleepers for next year. I mean, even it's a Big Ten, so it's going to be a little challenging, but I do feel like he's one of the better coaches.
I actually like that because I know that a lot of people fouled on Maiava, but to be fair, what he did last year with literally no help and no weapons in some of the games was incredible. I mean, UCLA is a talent devoid team, or they were. I actually like that. I don't know if they could run the Big Ten, but Nico Maiava is another quarterback I will have an eye on. Just sidebar, because I think Chesney's a good coach, and I think that he, the clay that he has in Nico Maiava is incredible. UCLA could definitely be a player going forward. Actually, in a couple of years, they may just be the player. Who knows? I like that pick. That's actually a good one, Kev. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, that's a really solid pick. They did really well in the transfer portal. Bob Chesney's a heck of a coach, one of my favorite hires of the cycle. I think the only reason, and Mike kind of brushed up on this, I would stay away from it is the Big Ten conversation. But that's the same reason I would stay away from Kentucky, because I think, what's his name, Stein, right, from Oregon, that just took the job. He did an incredible job in the transfer portal as well. I think Stein is like one of those young coaches you seek during the hiring process. He could be the next, Dan Lanning type at Kentucky. So, look at Oregon was in a little bit of a better position when Lanning took over. You can't knock what Cristobal did at Oregon. It's just Cristobal wasn't known as a finisher. But that's the fear, not to get into Oregon conversation, but that's the fear with Lanning at this point too. Like, he hasn't been able to finish the big game either. But Stein's more than capable of becoming that next young head coach, the premier young head coach. And I think Chesney's in the same position. Like, when you start thinking about JMU these days, you're going to start thinking of our guy, Signetti, who's going to be the next Signetti, maybe. So, good pick. Very good pick. What do you say? I wanted to do some college football. I also wanted to do NFL draft. I have a good topic for you because our boy, I think we all love Daniel Jeremiah in this group. He said today that this NFL draft could be 10 edge rushers deep in between day one, like the first 3 rounds, maybe even. So I wanted to ask you guys, who are your top 5 edge rushers in this draft?
So are we allowed to project Arvell Reese into the edge rushers,
Yes.
or do we have to treat him as a linebacker?
Yes, because I think Arvell Reese, at this point, a lot of people are talking about him as if he's an edge rusher, a Micah Parsons type, because, we keep talking about it, but Micah Parsons, when he was with the Cowboys, when he got drafted by the Cowboys, he was a off-ball type linebacker at Penn State. And then he made the switch over, and a lot of people are believing, it was too hard to, after the type of season that Parsons had as an edge rusher, they were like, yeah, we can never put him back as, a linebacker. So the same thing could happen with Arvell Reese. So I'm more than happy to put Arvell Reese in that category of top edge rushers.
Okay. So then
are we talking about NFL, are we talking about just for next year, or are we talking about as a whole career?
No, just for who do you like going into next year? Who do you like going into the draft?
Okay.
So career factor would go into that, sure.
All right. So obviously this is going to be independent, so you're on your own. So obviously I haven't hit it on the show. I'm enamored with Arvell Reese. What he could be to me is incredible. I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, he's an off the ball linebacker, he's never rushed the passer. In his advanced metrics, and I mean even his numbers in general. Like, let's remove advanced metrics from it. just pure pass rush numbers. He's one of the best pass rushers, and he does it from literally all over the defense. And that's why I'm going to label him as an edge rusher here. I've made it clear here before that I don't think that's a good idea from the NFL. I'd literally play him across the line everywhere. So I think that's low-hanging fruit. So I'm going to say Arvell Reese. My number 2 is David Bailey. I think he's the best pure pass rusher in the draft. I think actually I'll go a step further. For immediate impact in the NFL, I think David Bailey's going to have the quickest, most immediate impact in the NFL. I think he's a guy you can probably plug in tomorrow, and he'd probably find a way to get you double-digit sacks in his first year. I think he's that good, that fluid. I don't think it's going to be very hard for him to become a premier edge rusher in the class. Number 3, it's tough. Like I know everybody wants Bain, but I don't view him as a edge rusher like that. So my number 3, I'm going to go with I'm probably going to go with Faulk from Auburn just because he's more natural than Bain would be. Like I said, I think Keldric Faulk is a guy who's going to take a little bit of time, but could develop into a double-digit sack guy. I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's sitting somewhere in the middle of the first round, and he will get picked. So I'm going to go with him at 3. Then I'm going to go Bain at 4 for obvious reasons. I mean, he's my knocks on him as an edge rusher end there. Outside of that, I think Ruben Bain he's going to be a fine prospect. He's going to be a guy that you play across a 3-4 or a 4-3. I think he'd be better suited inside, but he's going to be a guy. I think Bain will probably get you 5 to 8 sacks a year. He'll probably do it pretty consistently for a while, and he'll have just a fine career after that. And then for the last one, you know what? I'm going to do it, and I'm going to move down a little bit because I'm sure a lot of people if people watching this that understand edge rushers are probably going to say, Cashius Howell or TJ Parker. I'm going to go with Mesidor. I mean, what he did at Miami was just natural. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, he had Ruben Bain across from him, and Ruben Bain did have all those pressures. What was it, 54 pressures last year, I think it was.
It was 80.
Was it 84? Whatever it was. I don't know what the number was. It led the NCAA by an astronomical amount. And a lot of people will say that it was just, Mesidor playing catch. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Mesidor is a natural pass rusher. I think that he's a guy with a very high ceiling. His motor is endless. I could see him stepping in, maybe not his first year, but I could see him being a guy that's a perennial Pro Bowler, in that 9 to 12 sacks a year range. So yeah, that's going to be my top 5. I didn't anticipate putting 2 Miami guys in, obviously, but I feel like any list that doesn't have Ruben Bain in this draft class will be considered, silly, even though I don't think he's a premier edge rusher.
Yeah, I would argue our lists are very similar, but for pure pass rusher, if you're going edge rusher, I think David Bailey would be 1, and then Reese would be 2, just because I think I see Arvell Reese as not just an edge. I see him going anywhere on the field.
Instead, I was biased. I announced it when I said it.
Well, I'm just saying. I think that for Bailey, I do think he's the strongest edge of the class. But then I
agree. It's not close.
Arvell Reese at 2, and then I'd put Bain at 3. I do think he's more of a situational edge rusher and more 5 technique in other first, second downs and everything. I would also throw in Mesidor. I mean, Keldric Faulk and Mesidor, they're close to, but another name I would be close to throwing in there who had a really good season. I'm going to go, I'm not going with the standard, but I'm going to say Sayin Young at Missouri. He had a lot of good games this year, and he's playing in the SEC. He's playing some of the top competition, so I feel like he's one of the top pass rushers for this class.
Yeah, I'm going to be really upset if Steve doesn't go here with who I want him to go. After you give your list, I want to see if you got who I think you're going to have.
I actually, shockingly enough, and I'm not just going along with the group here, I have Mesidor in my 5 too, but I'm pretty big on Mesidor and his potential. I honestly, I feel pretty good about 3 edge players going in the top 10 of this NFL draft this year. And a lot of mock drafts have Reese at 2, Bailey at 5 or 6, and Bain towards the 8 through 10 range in this upcoming draft. But I'm putting Arvell Reese 1 just because when you talk about potential, what he can turn into, I guess we talk ceiling all the time. Like the fact that people are throwing Micah Parsons' name around with Arvell Reese is just pretty incredible. And if you have a chance to get a Micah Parsons in this draft, you do it 10 times out of 10. I mean, just think about it from what he was valued. Mike, I remember arguing till I was blue in the face about Micah Parsons. I still think Parsons is 2 and Myles Garrett is 1, and it's not even close. But we can have that discussion another day. But the fact that Parsons got 2
It's really
first
hard to have that discussion after Myles Garrett just did what he did.
yeah.
So we don't have to have that today.
No. But the fact that Micah Parsons got 2 first-round picks and a starting defensive lineman in the NFL as a return for the Cowboys says enough about what the Packers believed what his work was. And if you can get that out of Arvell Reese, like that's a game-changing type of defensive lineman. And for several seasons on that defense, it was a very bad Cowboys defense. Parsons led the way, and Cowboys were in the playoff hunt almost every year except for his final season with the Cowboys. Um, I think Reese is going to build into his frame.
He's also one of the youngest players, I think, in the draft too.
He's also
I think he's only 20. One of the youngest players in the draft.
Exactly. He's young. I hate the argument about like the end of the season when people were saying that like he got ran over by Mark Fletcher and like all that nonsense. Like he was overpowering.
Literally only Miami fans. Only Miami fans.
He was
it's like a boxer. If you fight enough, you're going to get knocked out. If you play enough football, you're going to get run over. Get over it.
Yeah, it's reps. I mean, how long are these guys on the field for throughout the season? So it's going to happen. Like, Kev, you played linebacker. Like, how often do you, like, rip through a lineman or something and all of a sudden the running back's in that hole? Unexpected. It's kind of hard to, like, get driving force when that happens. So
sometimes when you're playing linebacker, I mean, you're anticipating and then you could just get, like, you could get flat-footed in that hole when you're guessing and then you're just plowed over.
Yeah, it happens to the best of them. It happens every year, I'm sure. It's tough, but I mean, more often than not, he's overpowering offensive tackles, and that's what makes me pretty confident. My second one is Bailey also, David Bailey. Got to watch Texas Tech at the end of the season, Big 12 championship game against BYU. Got to see him in the college football playoff. In the college football playoff game, he was one of the shining moments for Texas. It was a very dismal day against Oregon, but Bailey looked pretty solid. And he just has this switch where he can just turn it on and he's in on every single play. You just keep hearing Bailey. And he got overshadowed by Rodriguez all season just because of like some of the incredible stats Rodriguez was doing, the interceptions, the forced fumbles, all that, leading the nation in tackling, all that good stuff. But to me, Bailey was like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, then the entire season as a whole, Bailey was the most talented and probably the best defender on that defense. My third one is Ruben Bain. I am although I'm not putting him in front of Bailey and Reese, I'm still very, very high on Ruben Bain. Again, not going to be a stat patter. He's going to do other things right. Putting pressures on the quarterback is enough. We talked about it with Fitzgerald, what that does for the secondary. And man, 83 pressures on one season is just an unreal stat and unheard of. Like you don't see that often. He's just so powerful. We saw it throughout the playoff. He went to another level in the playoff, which was really cool to see. My next one, I just have to put my charger in. I apologize, boys. My next one's Keldric Faulk, and I think he's more of a raw product than Reese, but it's a lot of the same reasons. He's only 20 years old. He kind of has a similar frame as Reese. Man, like if somebody can develop him, you could be talking about a guy who's getting 10 plus sacks every single season. So yeah, Keldric Faulk is number 4. And then my 5th one is Mesidor. I don't think Bain had anything to do with his well, I'm sure he did at times, but I think Mesidor is a product of his own, coming around the other edge. And some sleepers. I really like R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma. That was a strong defense this season, so I want to throw his name out there too. But Kev, you dropping Zion Young? That's a really good name drop too, because I'm high on him.
Can I throw one sleeper out there that I wanted you to say because I thought you would go there, and I actually am becoming a believer?
Sure.
I want to throw out Derrick Moore from Michigan, who arguably had the best Senior Bowl of everybody and quietly had one of the best pass rushing seasons in the NCAA. I think he had 10 sacks.
Yes.
In He did have a 10-sack season. I'd have to look at the pressures, but he was one of the best pass rushers in the NCAA, and he proved it at the Senior Bowl. Literally, it looked like he was playing with little kids out there, and he was a man amongst boys. So while I don't think he's going to get that rise, obviously, into the first round, but the guy went from having like a fourth or third round grade to potentially, we could see him going high second. So I wanted to see you go there, but I am becoming a believer of his.
Yeah. Derrick Moore, he has turned into the guy on Michigan that I'm probably highest on. For a while, it was Barham, who's another edge rusher who could go relatively high in this draft. Like day 2 type pick, Barham, depending on how teams view him. I don't think a lot of teams are going to like what he did in the Ohio State game where he kind of headbutted a referee. So Barham, for me, kind of drops a little bit, and he hasn't tapped into his full potential. He's going to be a major product. Derrick Moore's polished. Like he was in college, 4 5 years? I don't know. He was there for a little
4
while.
years, I think.
And like from the start. So Michigan always has like really strong defensive linemen. I mean, we saw it last year with Grant went to the Dolphins, right? And Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, and then Stewart also went to the Rams. He had a really good rookie season. That's all from one draft. But Aiden Hutchinson, the list goes on. But this Derrick Moore, like Harbaugh loved to do a rotation. Sherrone Moore I know we don't say his name much anymore, but he liked to do a rotation. I think that was Wink Martindale trying to like rotate the defensive linemen so they wouldn't get tired. Michigan was always like 8 to 10 defensive linemen deep, and Derrick Moore still found his way onto the field. Like Derrick Moore received playing time during the national championship season. He wasn't the main factor, but he was on the field. And then the following season, he really developed into his own with Stewart and himself. And then this season, he came back and he was really like a captain through it all. And actually, Derrick Moore, after the Sherrone Moore thing, when he declared for the draft, he was one of the first guys to come out and be like, go blue for life. This is a guy who developed and really loved his time at Michigan. The 10 sacks speak for itself. I don't even think he had a lot of sacks until Big Ten play. And that's when he really like started to turn it up a notch. So the fact that he did it against some of the biggest competition is even better. And then, like Mike talked about, the senior week, the Senior Bowl, it was just highlight clip after highlight clip of him just running through some of the best offensive linemen in this draft. So he has it in him to do that. So he could be very successful.
Yeah, and he's got like one of the most traditional like edge rusher builds. He's like he if you look at him, he's not. I mean, he's 6'3", but he's stocky and he carries a great frame. And he could do it with speed or power. And I think that he is the definition of clay. And you get him in the right system with the right team, right defensive coordinator, right defensive line coach. I mean, he legitimately could be a monster in the NFL, like a absolute house. And, I also think that he's got the capability to play down as a down lineman, or he could stand up and play in a 4-3, or 3-4. He's got versatility. And I'm actually really, 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 I'm not the biggest Michigan fan. I know that me and Steve argue about that, but I'm actually super excited to see what he can become.
I think he did it at Michigan too. They don't typically sit in the 3-4. He was not, he was standing upright throughout the season, like at times. I don't know
because of his size, he has position versatility, and it's kind of like Ruben Bain, only the opposite. Like Ruben Bain's got position versatility where, you could line him up in a 3-4 or 4-3 and he could switch inside, play outside. Obviously that's not what Moore's going to do, but the fact that he could play across multiple fronts and still inevitably get the same result is a game changer. I think that, I think he's just as good as the other guys. He may not get that love. He may not get the rub to get up, but to be a first round pick. But I think he is a guy that finds his way relatively high into the second round, which is going to be a pretty good rise for somebody from where he was. And like you said, his stats did come against some of the best teams that Michigan played. And that's the biggest thing is you want to see numbers against big teams. And yeah, I think he's somebody that probably is going to be a great find in this NFL draft, and wouldn't be shocked to see him as on an all rookie team type deal. I think it's going to be, I think he's an exciting player. So
go blue. I want to do a lightning round thing. I got 2 quick topics I wanted to throw into this episode. Lightning round. Off the top of your head, give me your top 5 guys in this draft. And I'm not saying
in order.
don't go by positional need. I want you to act as if you're picking the best guy on the board when your pick comes up.
Okay. In order? You want me to just rattle them off right now? Okay.
Yeah, in order, top 5.
All right. Reese, Fernando Mendoza, Ruben Bain. Oh, God. I'm going to go Jordan Tyson. What?
Bain over Bain as the second edge guy?
Yes, because I'm going overall. I'm going to go you know what? I'm going to go David Bailey at 4 and then Jordan Tyson at 5.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go, I mean, just based off how game changing the person is, I'm going Caleb Downs 1, Arvell Reese 2, Fernando Mendoza 3, Ruben Bain 4, and I said David Bailey 5.
Okay. Mine is Arvell Reese 1, Caleb Downs 2, Jeremiah Love 3, Sonny Styles 4, and 5 is Ruben Bain for me. I like Sonny Styles a lot.
Styles.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that feel that he has the same kind of capabilities and versatility that Arvell Reese does. There are a lot of people that do think that he can do exactly what Arvell Reese is going to do in transition to an edge rusher. Whether they make him do it or not, I don't know. But yeah. I actually like that one. That was a good one. That was a sneaky one.
He could be a Fred Warner too. If he doesn't make that switch to edge, like he could easily be a Fred Warner at linebacker.
But wouldn't that be something, just for a side argument, wouldn't that be something if both Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese end up transitioning to edge and actually succeed at it? Wouldn't that be crazy? That'd be crazy, right? The two guys from the same defense. That'd be wild.
If they both have the same team too?
There is a world where they end up on the same team. There absolutely is a world where that happens. Yes, there is.
I mean, this Ohio State linebacker room, like it was up there with like when USC, what was it?
Oh my God, with Cushing and Clay Matthews and Maluga and oh God, that was filthy.
We could be looking at it as the same type of linebacker room in the future. But yeah,
I just remember him.
Cushing was half animal.
I believe it because I mean he freaking the clip of him just hitting his.
He should be studied. He should be studied for multiple reasons. He should be studied for CTE. He should be studied for the perfect steroid cycle. He should be studied for just DNA analysis.
New Jersey guy. You gotta love Jersey, boy.
You know who, when it comes to, just side note, when it comes to crazy football players, Brian Cushing's my number 1. My number 2 is Owen Schmidt. And those two guys need to be locked in a padded room, and whoever survives is allowed to come out. And if you don't know who Owen Schmidt is, Google him. Watch his highlights.
Cushing's like normal off the field.
Is he? Are we sure of that?
I mean, he doesn't pop up in the headlines. He hasn't yet, at least.
Probably because I locked him in a room. You know what? I brought up Owen Schmidt. I assume everybody here knows who Owen Schmidt is. I hope. The fullback from West Virginia that came out and wrecked his own face with his face mask, bloodied himself up. I'm pretty sure that he's gotten in trouble since and has proven that he's an animal. I'd have to double check that though, but I would like to lock the two of them in a room today.
Look at that smile.
Yeah, I know.
He was a different kind of cat. Back when fullbacks were great. Make fullbacks great again.
I knew that was coming. I read your mind there. My last topic. I think you guys are going to like this one because you both had him in your top 5. So Todd McShay, I was listening to his episode today, and I thought it was a pretty interesting conversation because it's kind of them taking a step back. But the nice thing about McShay and Mensch is they have like insider information where they're talking to people involved with the organizations around the league. So they're gathering this information from trusted sources. They both are at a point where they think Fernando Mendoza is a guy, but not the guy, they were saying. What's your thoughts on that? Because, like, Mensch was even at the point where he was like, and this goes against everything we talk about, where, like, you don't wait for a quarterback. But Mensch is at a point where he's like, trade back this pick. You know, if he's not going to be the superstar that you believe he's going to be, then, like, try to get a quarterback in the future. I forget where McShay was with that. I don't think he totally disagreed, but I think they both believe that Mendoza is not going to be a superstar, but he'll be like a very good quarterback, like a Jared Goff type throughout his career. So what's your thoughts on that, like, argument of he's like he's a guy. He's going to do very well in the pre-draft lead up, and he should be able to win on the football field and put up some stats, but he's not the guy. He's not like that upper echelon, the top 5, top 10 guys that we talk about. He's not Cam Ward. He's not Caleb Williams. He's not Jayden Daniels. He's not Drake May, you know? So I'm curious what your thoughts on that conversation is.
I'll go first because I know Freck's going to get, I feel like, more into detail about it. I mean, one argument you could have is he's already proven himself that he can win in the big games. I mean, he won the Big Ten championship. He played very well in the playoff games he took control of those playoff games. And I do feel like, yes, he's not the most attractive prospect, but he has proven that he can win the big games. And I know Goff was drafted on potential and everything, but I mean, if he's like Goff and he proves that he can win the big game, that's one of Goff's flaws. He hasn't proven that he can win the big game. So I feel like I would still take him as a quarter, like if I had the number 1 pick, if I needed a quarterback. But I mean, and June agree that there are better players out there, but I do feel like if you need a quarterback, again, don't wait. They run your offense, so I mean, you need a commander behind the center. So,
what better player is there out there than Fernando Mendoza? Like, I'm sorry, I watched the take. I assume Kevin meant better overall player, not better quarterback. So
yeah,
I'll take that back. Okay, the Raiders are not trading that pick. And I listened to the clip and I understood what Mensch and McShay were doing. I love their show, but they're the most inconsistent duo I've ever. McShay is the most inconsistent person. Mensch has been pretty hot and cold on Mendoza, where he says he's, thinks he's good. He's not the guy. McShay one week, Mendoza's the guy. The next week he's not. The next week he is. This is a quarterback deprived league. How many players get drafted in the first round at quarterback position and don't pan out? How many of them? It's the list is endless, and it continues to grow year after year after year after year. You got a guy, and you're telling me I can invest the first overall pick in, and he could be Jared Goff? Sign me up right now. Sign me up, because I know what bad quarterback play looks like. I've seen it my whole life as a Jet fan. I've seen it my whole life. You're telling me, okay, I'm not going to get a top 5 guy potentially or a top 10 guy, but he's going to sit, which I think Goff is a top 10 quarterback, but he's going to sit, let's just say, between that 8 and 15 spot year after year, and I'm going to be in contention every year, and I'm going to have a shot in the biggest games because he's going to do the right thing. That is worth the first overall pick. And just to play, the devil's advocate, let's say the Raiders did go and look to trade out of that pick. Nobody is giving up a 2027 first round pick to them. Nobody is giving one up. So if you're the Raiders, are you willing to pass on the guy who you now can pick, who, yeah, okay, he may not be, let's just go back to the beginning of the show, Arch Manning. He may not be Julian Sayin. He may not be Darian Mensah, which, let's just, whatever. He may not be that guy. But there's also, if nobody's going to give me a pick next year that allows me to move up to get one of those guys if I don't finish bad, or tank, and I'm taking the guy. I'm not waiting. Like, it's just the logic. And I love Todd. I love the show. I don't listen to it. I watch the clips of it more so most of the time. But it's a stupid take. Like, they have to, and they do have inside information, and I get that. But I'm sorry, they're basing it off of, oh, well, what if Tom Brady changes, or what if he thinks, like, no, Tom Brady, as much as I'm not a huge Tom Brady guy because I'm a Jet fan, but the guy's not an idiot. He knows nobody's giving him a 2027 first round pick. He knows that he's sitting in the driver's seat to take a guy who, yeah, he may not be a top 5 talent in the NFL in his position. But I know that if I develop him correctly, at worst, I'm going to get a guy who could steady the ship year after year for the next decade to 15 years and keep me in contention. You make the pick. It's stupid. Like, and I'm going to go a step further, like, as a Jet fan, because we're at the number 2 pick. If you told me tomorrow that there was a way, and I love Arvell Reese, I've made that clear on this show that I love Arvell Reese. If you told me there's a way that I can get Mendoza tomorrow, I would take Mendoza over Arvell Reese because I know what it means to not have a quarterback. So no, you take Mendoza. It's plain and simple. You take
Yeah.
Mendoza because you don't know next year what you're going to have. And that class can fall flat on its face, just like it did this year. And there is no Mendoza next year.
I know you guys are gonna want to jump in, but I want to hit a few points. First, I'm going to throw it out there. I completely agree. Like the Raiders have just had too much quarterback issues in the past that like you don't pick Fernando Mendoza. You have to. You have to go after the quarterback. I think they brought in Clint Kubiak from the Seahawks because he's going to work with this quarterback. Like he brought back Sam Darnold to life. He made him a Super Bowl winner. I know it started with the Vikings, but Kubiak continued it. And I think a big reason why he was the front runner and eventually got the head coaching position for the Raiders is because they want him to work with the next quarterback or the quarterback of the future. But the one thing for me, like first off, Kev, you said winners. Like it doesn't necessarily translate over to the NFL. Like Tim Tebow was a winner throughout college football. You know, he won with Florida. I can, Stan Bradford. I know I'm thinking back in time, Vince Young, like all these guys who just didn't pan out. So like, it doesn't necessarily mean like Fernando Mendoza was in a very good system with Signetti and he had very good players around him. And I know it's the NFL. You're going to have premier talent, but I do fear for him. Like he is going to the Raiders, and I know I just said the QBX coming in, but like we know what the history of quarterbacks with the Raiders is, and they have to prove to me that they can develop quarterbacks. There are players around him, the Brock Bowers, Genty. So if they can shore up that offensive line, maybe get him a receiver, like they're in a good spot. My one thing is like if I was the Giants and they didn't pick Jackson Dart last year, I don't know if I'd be too upset about falling back to the 5th spot. I wouldn't be sitting there going like, "Oh man, I'm missing out on Mendoza," because of those reasons. Like, I didn't really even say that with Cam Ward last year. I hate to admit it. I'm not as high on Cam Ward as a lot of other people are. I know McShay and Mensch both love Cam Ward. I bet one of you two love Cam Ward. I don't know. I've never heard you guys talk about him, but I'm sure there's someone in here that likes Cam Ward a lot. I don't think these past 2 drafts, like any of these quarterbacks were what we saw in the previous draft, where it was like Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, and Drake May. Like that could go down as one of the best quarterback drafts of all time. What we're looking at this year is maybe one of the worst I've seen. And like I don't sit there and get like when you tell me I'm drafting a franchise quarterback, like yes, I would take Jared Goff, but I don't run circles around my neighborhood saying I just picked a future Jared Goff. So, like, my thing is, like, I kinda agree with them, and the more I sit here and think about it, and I've been, like, high on Mendoza since the season ended and, like, while the season was going at the end, I think I might've, like, as the draft process went on and you had Dante Moore out there more longer and longer, I think I would have started becoming a believer of Dante Moore could really slide into that number 1 spot. So, like, with that information, is Mendoza like any other draft, is Mendoza even in the conversation of the number 1 pick? I think the highest he goes in the Caleb Williams draft is the 4th quarterback off the board, and even that's up for discussion with, like, Bo Nix and stuff like that. But my other thing is, like, I asked you Jets fans because, Mike, you talked about it a little bit, but, like, deep down inside, like, really try to think about it. Are you like really disappointed that you're going to get an Arvell Reese and not a Fernando Mendoza? Are you, or is there a part of you that's sitting there and you're like, I'm actually a little excited to see like where we land in next year's draft because it's supposed to be that type of QB draft, and we can just bring in like a Derek Carr for a season, have him come out of retirement. Maybe he puts up numbers similar to what he did on the Raiders. It is possible. I don't think he's that old. How old is Derek Carr? You bring him in.
34.
Yeah, I mean, you bring him in for a season. That's a veteran quarterback who's done it before. Like Carr at one point was probably a top 15 quarterback in the league. I think that's a way better option than what you had this season. You let it ride. Like you're not expecting a Super Bowl this season, and you reassess the situation next year when the talent pool is supposed to be way better. And I know we keep talking about like what this QB draft class could have been, but realistically, like we're going to have a lot of those guys enter the draft next season. Like they're not going to sit in college any longer after next year. I don't think. Like we're going to at least see like the Arch Mannings of the world. I think there's a good chance with Jeremiah Smith entering the draft, Sayin's going to say my best guy's leaving, so I'm going to enter the draft. And you know, there's Chambliss is going to be there now. You know, who knows what some of these other guys turn into. So if Sorsby has a big season with Texas Tech, Leavitt, LaNorris Sellers, whose Mensch is actually huge on, thinks he could be one of the top quarterbacks next year. Um, there's going to be options next year, and it could be deep in the first round. So, like, that's what I challenge you. Like, I know you'd be happy if Mendoza fell to you at 2. Like, deep down, like, are you really losing sleep that you're going to get Arvell Reese and not get Mendoza?
No, I'm not losing sleep over it, but I also like we have an interesting perspective as Jets fans. Is we know what it's like to not have a quarterback. Like most of our fandom has been just that. Oh, we'll get the guy next year. Or oh, we'll bring in Derek Carr and he'll carry us over to the next guy. So no, I'm not upset that I'm not getting Mendoza. But if I was in the position to take Mendoza, I wouldn't hesitate to draft him because you have to have the guy to win, and we don't have the guy, and we haven't had the guy. And to go with what you said, I think that's a realistic thing where you could bring in a Derek Carr and take a guy next year. But I also wouldn't be shocked to see the Jets take themselves out of next year's draft class by signing Derek Carr and then drafting Ty Simpson at 16. And now, I really did want Fernando Mendoza if that happens, So and again, there's no guarantee. And I know we said that they will be in the draft. There will be guys in the draft, but there's no guarantee that we'll be viewing next year's draft class the way we are today. Just as we thought this year's draft class is going to be something, and we're viewing it as we do today.
Well, let's think of it this way. The position you need to win the Super Bowl is quarterback. There's one-offs. Trent Dilfer won with the Ravens, but the Ravens had one of the best defenses of all time. I mean, Joe Flacco with the Ravens, stuff like that. But, I mean, for the most part, it's Mahomes, it's Brady, it's Manning. It's big-time quarterbacks, Breeze, Rodgers. Like, those are the guys who are in the Super Bowl. It's not Jared Goff, in my opinion. No matter, like, the Lions, they looked fantastic 2 years ago, and they still couldn't get the job done. And Goff came back down to earth against the Commanders. I think he threw a few interceptions in that game. So, like, while you can get the flashy stats during the regular season, like, Jared Goff's never going to catapult you probably like a Matthew Stafford would. That's why, like, that trade will always be questionable, in my opinion, because people say, like, that was one of the most realistic trades ever, like, where both sides won. Now the Lions are playing winning football, and the Rams got a Super Bowl out of it. But I mean, Stafford's even like an upper tier quarterback. Like, those are the guys you go seeking for. So, like, if I can't,
but you have to be in a position to take those guys too, right?
You do. Like, I don't know. I don't want to waste time on a guy who's going to maybe get me into, like, the wild card round of the playoff, maybe get me into the first round and play just good enough football where I keep the fans around interested, then, at least having a chance to go find myself a Mahomes eventually. So, like, I go back and forth about it because, like, I don't like waiting around either. But the fact, like, I think back to last draft, like, they were talking about Brian Dable. Brian Dable was very big on Cam Ward. The Giants tried to trade a huge package to jump up to that first pick to get Cam Ward. They couldn't do it. The Titans were stuck on drafting Cam Ward. But Brian Dable was also very, very big on Jackson Dart. I think if Jackson Dart gets drafted before the Giants get traded into the first round, he's not taking a quarterback in that draft. Like, I don't think he was big on Tyler Shough and, like, the other guys like Sanders. And it showed because he didn't take Shadur Sanders. So I almost, like, have that mindset where, like, you have to have those guys you fall in love with. Like, Brian Dable went to Tennessee to become the offensive coordinator because he loved Cam Ward so much. He had opportunities to go to the Philadelphia Eagles and, a few other teams and become the offensive coordinator. He chose the Titans because he loved Cam Ward. You need your coach and your staff to absolutely love this person. I think people are going to love the personality of Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a smart football player. But, like, when you sit there and you look at him as a whole, like, I don't know, like, I don't love, like, I have a lot of question marks about Fernando Mendoza because I could see him turn into a Jared Goff, but that's his ceiling. Jared Goff is his ceiling. What is his floor then? So that's what worries me about it.
I'm going to say, I mean, at some points for Jared Goff's career, you're putting him in the top 5 during some seasons that he played. I mean, what was the couple years ago when the two teams had, like, it was he on the Rams or the Lions at that point where it was like 56 to like 59, like it was the biggest like opening game, Thursday night opening day point total.
I mean,
I think there was weeks you put him in the top 5, like the Monday Night Football game where he only had 1 incompletion. I was like, that's some of the best quarterback play I've ever seen in my life.
Right, yeah. But also kind of like I wanted to jump in at one point, like when you first started saying how, yes, there are other quarterbacks that did win in college, like Tim Tebow and everything. But I feel like those quarterbacks did not have like the mindset and the body, the play style of Fernando. Like Tim Tebow.
Like Trevor Lawrence too. Like Trevor, I think Trevor Lawrence was a better prospect than Fernando Mendoza is, and he's like,
I mean, there's an argument to be made that Trevor Lawrence was the best draft prospect. I mean, people viewed him as like could be Mahomes, and I just that was the one thing where I agree with you that, you know, the guys that are winning it every year, the Mahomes. Well, let's just say the guys that are perennially viewed as the best quarterbacks, because I don't want to narrow it just to the guys winning the Super Bowls, but the guys are viewed as the best quarterbacks in the NFL are the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, you know. But again, there's only a few of those guys, right? Like, you know, if we're looking at it as we look as guys like the best quarterbacks in the world, we're probably only looking at like 5 guys. There's only 5. And there's been hundreds drafted, you know, and at the end of the day, like Mendoza may never be one of those guys, and most guys are not, but he could be, like they said, a guy. And at the end of the day, if I'd rather have a guy than be in the situation that we're personally in, where we continue to invest trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes, and instead we end up where the guy is now, you know, won a Super Bowl with Seattle, or, you know, is the backup quarterback for the Broncos, or, you know, like it's just a never ending cycle. And I'm tired of, this is me personally, I'd rather go out and get the guy that I think I have the best chance to be good with than a guy that I might have a small chance to be great with at this point. But again, this is a beaten fan.
What are you guys going for as Jets fans? Like, are you going to be relevant again, or are you going to become contenders? Like, because you're in.
I think you got to be relevant to become a contender, right?
But
like realistically,
you're in the AFC East where like Josh Allen's not going anywhere. The Bills just hired a new head coach because they want improvement. They want to get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl. And now you got the Patriots and Drake May. Like, you need somebody that's going to be able to compete with those 2 quarterbacks. And Fernando Mendoza is not doing that.
Well, we can't say he's not because we don't know. I think from the body of work, you're comparing the kinds of quarterbacks there are. Yeah, he doesn't stack up like a Josh Allen or a Drake May, but that doesn't mean that he can't win like them a different way. But the other thing is there's only one quarterback that we can honestly say that we see out in the NCAA that can compete with those guys, and it's Arch Manning. And obviously I would love for that to be the case, the Jets to get a guy like that. But, you know, realistically, the Jets would have been played to take Arch Manning this year, but he fell on his face for most of the year. And I know next year is another year of starting, but, you know, what if he comes out and has another year like he did this year? Then what's the conversation next year? Then we're talking, well, if the Jets had a chance to move up for Mendoza, they should have done it, right? Like, that's the conversation. I'm not a big fan of waiting. I don't know what Mendoza's going to be, and nobody does. I don't think he's those guys. I don't think he could be a Drake May or a Josh Allen. I'll admit that. But that doesn't mean that he can't win like those guys. You know, he could do it differently. He's not the most physically gifted. He's not the smartest guy out there, I'm sure. His bigger thing is he's always prepared. Again, I just want to have a chance to be in the yard to play. Right now we're sitting on the outside looking through the fence. You got to be relevant to compete. And we're not relevant and we're not competing. So and again, this is like a personal conversation. I hate it being that way. I want to take my chance this year if I could, versus waiting to see what could be next year, because I don't know what next year is going to be. God's honest truth. If you told me today Arch Manning is going to be a stud, Julian Sayin is going to be a stud, Mensah is going to be a stud, I would say yes, we should wait. But we don't know that. We can't say that.
There's I'm getting outside the quarterback.
By the way, all these schools of thought, I think, are correct, by the way. I think your logic is 100% correct.
Yes.
So I just want to be clear that it's not a argument. But
I think it's good conversation, though. And honestly, like, I agree with everything you guys are saying, too, because I put out there, I think the Raiders should draft Mendoza. But I can say that and also not believe that Mendoza's the guy, you know, like kind of what they were saying. But like my thing is like, think about it from playoff perspective this year. The Seahawks were the number 1 team in the NFC, and I think the Patriots were number 2, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like outside of like the Giants' 2 incredible runs and like a few other one-offs, like if you're not in that like perennial conversation where you're one of those top teams, like you're most likely not getting to the Super Bowl. And you have to, it's the same thing with the quarterback conversation. Like most years, you have to have that top tier quarterback. I mean, the Seahawks probably fall into that Joe Flacco conversation because like
I
Darnold
was about
still,
to say Sam Darnold. I don't know if I'd stack him up there against those guys either, but
yeah.
I know I wouldn't.
Seahawks were the best team in the NFC, though. So, like, you have to have one of those two things going for you. The Jets
actually, I have a point. I want to ask a question because I think this is going to lead into what you're talking about. If I told you, obviously we know Sam Darnold was the 3rd overall pick. If I told you the last 2 years of Sam Darnold is what he was going to be for his career, a playoff quarterback, maybe not the greatest talent, he does just enough to win. Where would you see? Would you invest a 3rd overall pick in him, knowing that what you know now? Because I think we would. You would probably invest a 1st overall pick, knowing you'd get a Super Bowl out of it. And that's kind of where my logic's at. Like,
I could go even back further if you want to talk about like getting a Super Bowl win. Big Ben. I mean, he wasn't always the top. Like you could argue he really wasn't the top 5 at the quarterback position when he was playing.
but he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame. And I also think that the quarterback position was I don't think he'd be a good quarterback in today's NFL, but at the time, the game has changed. I think that he was.
I mean, I feel like he could be. He was freaking. You couldn't bring back him down at all.
Yeah,
I just feel like the game's changed so quickly from when he was. But at the time, like I remember him. He was it's not that long. We're talking like it was 10, 15 years ago. He was good though. I mean, he was. I don't think anybody would argue.
He was not the top 5, like in the NFL.
I have to look, but in none of his years did he finish top 5 statistically in the league.
I'd
have to look. I don't remember.
Maybe once. I mean, when he had Antonio Brown. But
actually, why are we having this conversation? Hold on a minute. Let's go the same draft class. You know exactly what I'm going to ask. Was Eli Manning worth the 1st overall pick? He really was never statistically ever the best quarterback. I don't know if he ever finished top 5, but he won 2 Super Bowls.
He was a top 10 passer of all time for up until like a year.
You don't think that Mendoza could be like Eli Manning in the sense of like, yeah, he was never one of the top guys, but he got it done when it mattered.
My only argument to what you said about Sam Darnold is I can now say that with Saquon Barkley too. If you asked me a few years ago when Barkley was getting injured with the Giants every year, I would have said, oh, I wish we drafted Quentin Nelson. But I think hindsight's, what is it? Hindsight's
it's always
2020. Like Sam Darnold fell into a very good position where I think Mike McDonald's an incredible coach. They had the top defense in the league. Again, it felt like the Ravens effect, but Darnold's a better quarterback than what Dilfer is. But like, it's the same thing with Barkley last season. Like he rushes for 2,000 yards. You'll take that. You would draft Barkley number 1 overall if you knew you were going to get a 2,000-yard rushing season and a Super Bowl out of him. So, like, I can do that for countless players. I just think Darnold fell into the right system with the Seahawks. That's not saying Mendoza.
Well, I just kind of viewed Sam Darnold's year this year as a middle of the pack quarterback. So if Darnold could win it, then Mendoza's probably worth the 1st overall pick if he could provide me that. I'm setting the floor like lower, and I understand that, but.
Darnold was in the MVP conversation for a while, though. So, like, this particular seat, he was not a middle of the pack quarterback. And what he did in the playoffs was.
Goff has always been in the I feel like
he's been in the MVP conversation before. But I also understand what Steve is saying is that when it gets to the playoffs, he hasn't done anything. Minus the 1 year with the Rams, but. And I understand that, and I get that. And by the way, anybody that's listening to this and is a Jared Goff fan, I don't think Steve is telling you that he's a bad quarterback. Like, I don't think that's he's just saying he doesn't, I understand what Steve's saying is the game is changing, and it's the elite guys that are getting it done. And he's right, unless your name's Josh Allen. He's right. And Mendoza doesn't stack up physically against those guys at all very well. He's not going to run away from you. He's not going to blow you away with his arm talent. and I'm going to say mentally he's probably up there with those guys. It seems like he's a very prepared guy, but you're right. He's not physically gifted like those guys, and I don't think he could do it by himself. I'm going right now and telling you, I don't think that Mendoza could win it by himself like a lot of these guys can. Like Drake May has literally done all year, but he gets you a seat at the table, I think.
Yeah. And to add to your conversation about like the difference in my opinion between the Raiders and the Jets is the Raiders specifically went, again, going back to this because I think this is a huge point. The Raiders specifically went out and got a coach that they know is offensive minded coach, a QB builder. I don't think it would be very fair, like if Mendoza slipped to the Jets at number 2 and you have Aaron Glenn as your head coach, and
it wouldn't be the same.
I guess your offense coordinator.
Yeah, and you're only most
Who
likely
has literally never developed a rookie quarterback in his career. Yeah, that guy.
Like Mendoza's going to fall into that like one of those tough positions. It's going to be a Daniel Jones situation where he's going to go through 3 or 4 head coaches. And well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe the Jets go out and hire a great mind next year. But like,
nope. Speak your mind. It's right.
He's going to be shuffling head coaches early in his career, and I never think that's fair to a rookie quarterback. It's the same thing with like Dart. Like Dable was so big on Dart. Luckily, they brought in Harbaugh, who's a veteran coach, but it's still unfair to Dart that he has to get 2 coaches in his first 2 seasons. Same thing with Cam Ward. Like there's no.
Yeah, I mean the big thing is that leash gets shorter, right? Because technically Harbaugh could have let's just say Dart comes, and you're right because this is the right logic. Because now you're arguing, is a team ready to take a quarterback? The Jets are not. Like the Raiders, I think are. The Jets are not. But you're right, because it puts him in a bad situation where he will fail. And we've seen that over and over again. Because a guy like Dart, for instance, now, regardless, is on a shorter leash because Harbaugh didn't draft him. And let's just say the Giants come out soft and it's not working out. Who's the first person that Harbaugh is going to blame or is going to be viewed as blamed? It's going to be Dart. So I think you're right. I don't think the Jets are ready to take quarterback. I'm not sure the Jets will be ready to take quarterback next year, to be clear. But
who knows?
You can't win without one. And you got to take that chance. And I know we've screwed them all up, but you got to keep. Eventually, a blind squirrel finds a nut, right?
Exactly. Good talk. Though.
The Bills did it.
And they
he can't win the big game, but they did it.
I mean, Allen was not. Some people had Rosen in front of Allen, so like it's not always.
I will tell you right now. That year, I had zero interest in Josh Allen. And I remember seeing the mock drafts where they said Josh Allen, to the Jets. At the time, they had the Giants taking Darnold, I think. I was not about it. I wanted Josh Rosen. I wanted him. So I'll be clear. But yeah, no, I think that was actually a really good conversation. That is a very listen-worthy conversation right there.
We're improving.
And the best part of the show hasn't happened yet, people. The best part hasn't even happened yet.
Let's get up to the best part of the show. I like the format we've been doing where we're closing out episodes with our interviews, kind of busting with the boys material where they do the same thing, where you have to listen to us talk for an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah, but did Busting with the Boys get an interview with the next great safety? I don't think they did.
Future first round
future first round pick. The next Caleb Downs. Actually, he's just Bryce.
That's it. He's just like Cher. He just has one name.
He's just that guy. He's just the guy. We are big fans here on this podcast of our guest. We all think that he's special, and give it a listen because it came to you first from us.
Yeah. So let's shift it over to that. We're gonna close out the episode. Definitely, if you liked this episode, if you love our interview that's coming up, subscribe to our channel because I can confirm that we have other excellent guests coming up and more talk throughout the off season. So there's going to be more college football talk and draft talk, but this is Bryce Fitzgerald, the starting safety from Miami, future Hall of Famer, future first round pick.
Star
from Miami. So here's our interview. Cool. Yeah, we're really excited to bring in Bryce Fitzgerald, the starting safety from the Miami Hurricanes. Made it an awesome run this season to the national championship game. What an exciting season. I want to start out with kind of what happened this season because you guys had the 2 regular season losses going into the selection show. It was between probably you, Alabama, and Notre Dame. I'm sure there were some nerves going into that show. I'm sure if you were even going to make the playoffs. But I guess I'll start off with what were the feelings going into that selection show, and was there kind of a sigh of relief, once it was over and you knew you were in the playoff?
Yeah, we were definitely nervous. Just because of what we did in the regular season, we just knew that was gonna take a toll on us. So watching that, when we were at home, we didn't even go to the locker room. We was just were praying and just hopefully we got in it. And Keontae Scott sent a text message right before they got to the 10, like the 9, 10 seed. And he said, bro, we gonna get in. When we get in, we gonna do what we gotta do. So he said that, and 3 minutes later, we found out we were in. So we were ready to go after that.
That's awesome. And yeah, your first game was in hostile territory. You go to Texas A&M, and
Hmm.
the defense just played lights out. The final score, I don't even think the 3 points is a description of how good your defense was on that day because it was excellent. I mean, every time your defense went on the field, when I was watching it live, I expected a stop. I almost expected a 3-and-out almost every single time. That's how good your defense was. What was clicking for your team, specifically the defensive unit that day?
Really just everybody do their 101. If everybody do their job, we felt like nobody could beat us. So everybody just staying on board, communicating and doing their job, we were gonna be unstoppable.
Absolutely. And let's talk about you specifically. You probably had one of the biggest moments of that game, interception to clinch it. And Texas A&M, that offense was high power from the SEC all season. Marcel Reed was the starting quarterback, and he's going to be QB to watch next season. But
Mhm.
you get the game-winning interception, the back of the end zone. It clinches your team's ability to move on to the Ohio State game in the next round. What did you see on that play, and what did that mean for you as a freshman to make such a huge pivotal play during the playoff? Actually,
Really just it was a blessing, It's just I'm still in shock now that I still had that play. I dreamed about it and I came to live about it. So it was great. But we were in man coverage. And a lot of teams, like when they get in the red zone, they run like a double in with the corner out from the number 3 guy that I was guarding. So I kind of figured that, we see that on film all the time. So I figured that they were going to do something different. So I jumped in his outside hip, and as soon as he cut back in, I broke and I seen the ball.
That's awesome. And you guys continued that dominance into the Ohio State game. So what was it like, I'm curious, what was it like dropping back against two of the best wide receivers in the country in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate? Like, what is the mindset? How does it feel? Like, it has to be super surreal, but also at the same time, what is your mindset as a competitor against those guys?
Really just beat him. I feel like if I could play against them, I could play against anybody. I also felt like I stuck one of the best receivers in the country every day. So going against them, it really didn't phase us. It was just ready to
That's
play.
that's fantastic. It's a great mindset, truthfully. And
Mhm.
then I, from what I understand, did you know Jeremiah Smith much before the game? I know a lot of headlines included he was originally from Miami, was going to, he wanted to go to Miami. What took place happened, whatever. He ended up at Ohio State. Did you know much about him, or even like on a personal level at all?
We weren't close like a brother, but we knew each other from 7-on-7. Like, yeah, we communicated, but we weren't like him and JoJo level. But yeah, I knew of him.
Awesome, awesome. And then obviously on your side of the ball, you guys, who I think we all on this podcast agree have one of the best receivers in the country in Malachi Tony. Uh, Both you guys, impact freshmen, no questions about it. You made some outstanding and important plays throughout the season. Did you both have a vision of returning Miami back to the early 2000s? Those are the glory days of Miami. Do you guys both have that vision? Do you see that? I think we see it, but do you see that personally? That's where you guys are headed.
Oh yeah, well, it's kind of crazy because I don't want to say it was out to Florida State. Malachi sent me a text and he was just like, "Bro, we got to change the culture around. Like, we got to bring it back." And just seeing how far we got, we know that we can do it. So now we just got to live up to it.
Yeah, what goes into changing the culture? Because Miami, like of late, has been known as recruiting extremely well, whether it be in the transfer portal or whether it be freshmen. Uh, but it just hasn't like translated fully. Like there's winning seasons, but it hasn't translated fully to where they're in the playoff hunt or championship contenders. What went into like this season and being able to shift from we get into a decent bowl game to making a run to the championship game?
Coach Cristobal, he really just preached about after we lost to SMU, he just preached about we gotta win the month of November. Just winning all your games in November is gonna help you out. So we came in that next day and we was just locked in from there on out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the history of Miami, I think there's an expectation that comes with it. When you put on the Miami uniform, you're expected to win. And, there's so much alumni relations to it because, just from the outside looking in, like ESPN has done like about 50, I'm joking, obviously, but documentations on, those late 80s teams, those early 90s teams. And then, like, of course, I think my introduction to college football was like that 2001 team led by like Ken Dorsey at quarterback, Jeremy Shockey at tight end, Andre Johnson at receiver. The defense was just stacked. I'm sure you know some of those safeties by now. Sean Taylor, Ed Reed, Roll was back there.
Mhm.
It's just crazy how much talent was in that pipeline. But seeing it on the sidelines, the support that you guys received during the playoff run, Ed Reed, I saw on there. I saw Ray Lewis taking it personal when something didn't go Miami's way. Michael Irvin on the sidelines too, celebrating after every win. What was that like, just seeing some of these NFL players, Hall of Famers that were on the sideline, just supporting you guys and with you every step of the way?
It was really just, it was great. Just especially seeing Ray Lewis, people dream to see him. So seeing him on the sideline, we were in the kickoff huddle, and he came and whispered in my ear, "Hunter's Hunt." So just hearing him say something to me, and he actually knew who I was, it was great.
That's incredible. I love that story. And on this current roster, you guys are trending in the right direction, like you said. You're trying to build consistency to be a national power. And it kind of started with some of those guys that are in the NFL draft discussion this year, but specifically on your defensive unit, you had Ruben Bain and Mesidor on the defensive line, and they were just wrecking quarterbacks all season. They're nonstop pressure on the quarterbacks. How much did that help some of the players in the secondary like yourself, knowing that your defensive line was going to get to the quarterback quickly?
It was great. Mesidor, I used to joke around with him every day, like before the game, just like, "Hey, how long we got to cover?" And he'll just tell me, and he'll be like, "Oh, we got you in 2.3." And actually what happened. So it was great just having that trust with them, and they're trusting in us. So having that trust was great.
That's awesome. All right, let's have some fun with these questions now. So obviously this is you started as a a freshman, and you're playing. What was your welcome to college football moment? Like, what was that moment that you're like, this is it? I'm not in. It's obviously not in high school anymore. I'm in the essentially the big leagues. What was that moment for you this year?
Mm. Like a play for me, or that
Yeah,
it
like
was
what
just
was it
like
where you're like the surreal moment where you're like, I'm here. This is it. Like I'm here.
Florida State, the
That's a good one.
interception. Yeah, it was just I caught it, and it was just like I belong here. So I was just ready to go.
And then leading from that, obviously, you are a safety. Uh, obviously, you're younger than we are. So, who was that safety that you watched, or it could be any position really, but I assume it might be a safety. Who was that safety that you watched growing up that you either aspired to be like or crafted your game around, or it maybe you didn't want to be a safety, maybe you wanted to be a quarterback, whatever it is. Like, who was that guy for you?
Really growing up, a lot of it was like Jason Marshall, and then kind of like going into like my junior, senior year, I started watching Cam Kitchens a lot. So those two
Wow.
guys are like my role models, really.
That's awesome name drops right there. I didn't
Yeah.
expect it, honestly. Like, you expect to hear some of those like every year Pro Bowlers, but those are like good name drops right there. Uh,
Yeah.
I have a question about your upbringing because you transferred to South Florida. High school football in Florida is known to be like some of the best, especially in the South Florida area. Do
Mhm.
you feel like that helped you, kind of carry over some of those skills and anticipation to the college football level, playing against such premier athletes at the high school level every week? Because you're a ball hawk, and I remember reading like your profile, your recruiting profile, and some of the I think it was 24/7 analysts, they were saying like, you can do it all. You can come up and make a tackle, but you can also, read the quarterback. and make that decisive interception. And when we saw it all season, 6 interceptions, that's huge as a freshman. And I was watching your tape, and like the way that you read the quarterback and you move, it's just like effortless almost. It feels like you're just doing it on instinct. Like, did high school ball help you with that? And like, where did you learn to become so confident as a safety? Because you have to have confidence to do so well as a freshman.
Yeah, it was really, yeah, I'd say high school helped a lot, especially against the talent we playing against. You know, every team they always got a good receiver or a good quarterback. So going against them, it was great. But really just I stayed in the film room all the time. So I knew quarterbacks' tendencies and what they like to do. So I took it away.
Yeah, I'm throwing this in there, but I know you were a 3-sport athlete.
Mhm.
Do you feel like being such a solid player as a basketball player, and then actually you did track in the spring, right?
Yeah.
How did like that help you prepare as a football player too?
Uh, so it really helped me a lot, especially like with just a lot of things, balance, getting out of your breaks, getting faster, stronger. Track really helped me a lot. It was just building everything. So when I came to the facility in May, everybody was just like, how is he so fast? Like he's just so explosive. So when they realized it, I knew it helped me a lot.
Yeah, I got one more for you. So I saw it's a 2-part question. I saw that you put on, and I'm reading this, 17 pounds last summer.
Yeah.
It looks like you really tried to bulk up.
hmm
What are you focusing on this off season? It looks like you focused on building some weight last off season. What are you focusing on this off season? And the second part is you accomplished so much as a freshman, but you don't really seem satisfied because I know um you recently wrote this season was just a warm up. So what are some of the goals for Bryce Fitzgerald? Like what do you expect from yourself sophomore year and the rest of your college career?
Really? Yeah, I put on 17 pounds last year in like a span of like 2 months. But this year, this is my first off season ever. So I'm just really just grinding, just putting on weight, putting on muscle so I can play any position on defense that the coaches need me to play. But yeah, I wasn't really satisfied with this year. Of course I had a great year, but I know what I'm capable of. So really just I'm waiting to get back to next year and just come back for everything.
Yeah, I love when players write those type of messages because you just know that you're hungry for that next step. So I mean, runners up in the national championship game, bringing back so much talent. Man, watch out for Miami and watch out for Bryce Fitzgerald. That was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck with the off season and good luck with the college football season. We'll be rooting for you.
Okay, thank you.